Have you noticed the pattern? A man who once thrived in a crowd now rarely answers his phone. He skips the family gatherings he used to host and stops returning messages that once felt urgent. Group chats go silent as he leaves them, and invitations are turned down with a quiet, firm resolve. People whisper in the background, labeling him as bitter, lonely, or someone who is pushing everyone away. But what if those observers are seeing the situation through a lens that is completely and fundamentally wrong? Because after 65, many men do not isolate themselves because they have suddenly stopped loving the people around them. They isolate because they begin to see the nature of their relationships and their own lives quite differently. Once you understand the profound psychological shift that happens in later life, you will never judge them the same way. When you are young, time feels like an endless horizon, stretching out before you with no visible end. You believe there is always another year, another opportunity, or another broken friendship that you can eventually fix. But something shifts after 65. Time stops feeling infinite, and the future begins to feel finite. Every birthday becomes a quiet reminder that life is not measured by how long you have already lived. Instead, it is measured by how much time remains, making every passing day feel significantly more precious. Psychologists call this phenomenon socioemotional selectivity, a natural shift in how we prioritize our social world. As people become acutely aware that their time is limited, they stop investing in relationships that drain their spirit. Instead of asking, "Who likes me?" they begin to ask a much more vital question: "Who deserves my time?" It is not an act of rejection or coldness. It is an act of intentional, necessary prioritization. For the first time in many decades, these men stop trying to please everyone and start honoring their own needs. Think about the roles many men play throughout their lives, performing for the benefit of those around them. They are the providers, the fixers, the dependable friends, and the peacemakers who never dare to complain. For 40 or 50 years, they wear these masks because that is exactly what society expects them to wear. But retirement, the process of aging, and the inevitable losses of life quietly remove those heavy masks. And in that moment, something truly surprising happens to the man who has spent his life performing. He realizes that some of his relationships only existed because of the utility or services he provided. They were not connected to who he truly was, but rather to what he could do for others. The coworker stops calling once the office connection is gone, and the relative appears only when they need something. The so-called friends disappear the moment there is nothing left to gain from his presence or his labor. It hurts to realize this, but it also brings a sudden, sharp clarity to his entire social landscape. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once reminded us, wealth is not in possessions, but in having few wants. The same principle applies perfectly to our relationships, where quality begins to outweigh quantity. A few genuine, deep connections often become worth far more than 100 shallow, performative ones. There comes a specific moment when many older men make a quiet, internal decision to change course. They decide there will be no more unnecessary drama or one-sided friendships that leave them feeling depleted. They stop pretending to enjoy conversations that leave them emotionally exhausted and drained of their energy. When you have fewer years ahead than you have behind, peace becomes the most priceless commodity you own. And peace, more often than not, requires the establishment of firm, healthy, personal boundaries. To younger people, those boundaries can easily look like loneliness or a sign of social withdrawal. But in reality, they represent something entirely different: the pursuit of true, hard-won freedom. It is freedom from the weight of expectations and the burden of constant, unnecessary social conflict. It is the freedom to stop living according to the opinions and judgments of everyone else. The older man is not necessarily becoming antisocial, he is simply becoming deeply intentional. Here is the irony that most people miss. The people who accuse him of being distant are often the ones who stop trying. They have not noticed how little effort they have made to stay close to him over the years. Relationships do not disappear overnight. They fade through years of unanswered calls and forgotten birthdays. They wither through one-sided conversations and decades of taking someone else for granted. Eventually, even the most patient and giving person stops reaching out to those who do not reciprocate. What looks like cold withdrawal may simply be someone protecting the little emotional energy they have left. Maybe the real question is not why older men cut people off so abruptly. Maybe the question is why they felt they had to do so in the first place. After 65, many men finally understand something that takes others an entire lifetime to learn. Life is simply too short to spend it with people who only value your usefulness. Your circle does not have to become bigger to be meaningful. It has to become truer. Sometimes the greatest act of self-respect is not adding more people to your life. It is the quiet, dignified act of letting go of those who never truly belong there. If this perspective has changed the way you think about aging and relationships, share your thoughts. Leave a comment with the single word peace to show you understand this shift. If you are searching for timeless wisdom from philosophy and psychology, subscribe to Explained by Leo. We explore the lessons life teaches us all, helping us navigate the complexities of the human experience. Because the more deeply we think, the more intentionally we live our lives every single day. And that is a practice worth repeating over and over for the rest of your journey.